US fighters scramble to intercept a fast-moving jet, but this is not a combat mission, it's a mid-air emergency. Private Learjet is hundreds of miles off course for some reason. The crew is not communicating with air traffic control. The aircraft was flying towards a large metropolitan area, and if the jet went down in one of those areas, there'd be mass casualties. It's 8:30 a.m. at Orlando International Airport. Pilots of a private Learjet run through their pre-flight checks. They're preparing for some high-profile passengers. Pro golfer Payne Stewart is on his way to Dallas with some close business associates. Payne Stewart is one of the most colourful characters in the game of golf. At 42, Stewart is in the middle of a comeback year. He's just won the US Open, one of the most important dates on the tour.
Payne Stewart is the 1999 US Open champion. Oh my!
But he's almost as famous for his trademark wardrobe as he is for his golfing. Payne Stewart hopes his future in golf will go beyond playing the game. He has big plans for building a new course at the Dallas University, where he honed his skills as an amateur. There were 3 people with him on the plane in addition to the pilot. Captain Michael Clay is well defined to fly this high-performance machine. He's a former Air Force pilot and flight instructor. First Officer Stephanie Vilagaric has less than 100 hours in the Lear. She's keen to log more flight time. At 9:19 a.m. the Learjet lifts off. The crew contacts Jacksonville Air Traffic Control, and the controller clears the jet to keep climbing to 39,000 feet. Learjet generally flies higher than the commercial airliners. By flying at high altitudes where the air is thin, the Lear saves on fuel. The flight plan calls for the airplane to fly northwest towards Cross City, Florida, then turns west to fly direct to Dallas. 14 minutes after takeoff, the Learjet has traveled 80 miles. It's time to pass control of the plane to a new air traffic controller. The pilots need to change to a different radio frequency to talk to the next controller. The air traffic controller tries to contact the Lear a few times, but all the attempts are unsuccessful.
47 Bravo Alpha, contact Jack Center at 135.65.
There's nothing unusual about missing first changes. The air traffic controller tries again after a few minutes. Still, the Lear is unresponsive. The Learjet has nearly reached its approved cruising altitude of 39,000 feet, but they continue climbing. Now everybody in the tower knew there is a major problem. Controllers watch nervously as it approaches Cross City. It's a critical moment. They know that any second now the Learjet is supposed to turn west towards Dallas. It's not making a course correction. There was something terribly wrong. Experts at the National Transportation Safety Board are notified of the escalating emergency once the air traffic control system realized the aircraft had gone rogue. The next step is to try to figure out why. It's either being hijacked or it's malfunctioned. The crew has been incapacitated somehow. Controllers scramble F-16 fighters to track down the wayward Learjet. The situation is growing more urgent. The runaway plane has been out of contact for more than an hour, and it's about to fly over the densely populated area of Memphis. The Learjet investigator is immediately recruited to the team. His first task is to determine how far the plane can get with the amount of fuel on board. When the airplane didn't make its turn, it continued onwards towards Memphis, and after Memphis it was headed towards St. Louis, and after St. Louis again towards Minneapolis. Those were all major metropolitan areas. If it went down in those areas, there'd be mass casualties. A small private jet on a routine flight has turned into a national emergency. There is some good news. The plane has cleared Memphis airspace, but the crisis is far from over. Controllers still have no idea why the plane is not responding, and there are more urban centers in the Learjet's path. If it doesn't change course soon, the fighter jets may be forced to take drastic measures. The US president was made aware of this situation. Learjet investigator has come up with a rough calculation of where the plane will run out of fuel. His best guess was South Dakota. In the air, the F-16 pilots have caught up with the rogue plane. The fighter pilots are desperate for some way to communicate with the Learjet's crew, so they attempt a risky aerial maneuver. The turbulence caused by the lead fighter would get some reaction out of the Lear, but it's no use. The Lear doesn't respond. The F-16 pilot isn't giving up though. His F-16 is designed to fly at a much higher speed. He wrestles it closer to get a better look. The windows of the aircraft provide an ominous clue. Windows were covered in frost and the cabin's windows were all dark. The grim reality of the situation sets in. The frosted over windscreen and the darkened cockpit and cabin indicated that the crew was probably not alive. The Learjet is now a ghost plane. With no hope for the passengers and crew, the NTSB investigators only focus now on where the plane will come down. But all they can do is wait and watch. After nearly 4 hours in the air, the Learjet is approaching Aberdeen, South Dakota. According to calculations, the jet is almost out of fuel. At 10 minutes past 12, it happens. The Learjet carrying Payne Stewart and 5 other people falls from the sky. Payne Stewart's Learjet has slammed into a hayfield in South Dakota. There are no survivors. There was a sense of relief after it did not impact a major metropolitan area. In Brown County, South Dakota, the crash has shaken local residents. The crash investigators' first step is to survey the impact area and lay out a search grid. The 500-mile-an-hour impact hasn't just smashed the wreckage, it's driven most of it into the ground. Crash site investigators dig through layers of earth. They search every inch of soil for wreckage. As key pieces are recovered, investigators map out the position of the plane. They want to find the tail and the cockpit voice recorder. They've recovered the cockpit voice recorder. The only recording device on board was badly smashed, and investigators were concerned that they'd get nothing out of it. The recording captures sounds during the last 30 minutes of the flight. As they listen, investigators make a disturbing discovery. No one on board is talking at all, but there are other sounds, and if they can be identified, they could provide vital clues, so even though no voices are heard, there's valuable stuff. The recording confirms the plane suffered some sort of decompression failure. The higher the altitude, the lower the air pressure gets. Above 10,000 feet, the air outside is so thin that the cabin air must be pressurized, so that the pilots and passengers can get enough oxygen to breathe. Pressurization prevents the life-threatening condition called hypoxia. If they don't get oxygen delivered back, eventually they're going to die from oxygen starvation. The evidence paints a chilling picture of the cabin altitude warning alarm was blaring for the entire 30 minutes. The mystery now is, why did Payne Stewart's Learjet lose vital cabin pressure, and why didn't the emergency alarm prevent the catastrophe? Investigators now have a theory about what went wrong on board the Learjet. Everything is fine until about 24,000 feet and something causes the plane to lose pressure. When the pilots got a cabin altitude warning, they picked up a checklist and start to troubleshoot. But they got confused by it, and the oxygen mask was sitting there unused. Hypoxia sets in with a devastating speed. After 15 seconds, the crew is confused and disorientated. Most importantly, they lose the ability to think, and before they can solve the problem, the crew loses consciousness. Investigators are never able to determine conclusively what caused the plane to lose pressure. The decompression could have been caused by a leaky seal on a door, a small leak about the size of a pencil in the side of the aircraft, or malfunctioned within the system. But whatever the reason, the crew would likely have recovered if they'd put their masks on. Following the investigation, the NTSB recommends important changes to aviation checklists to make them clearer and more useful in an emergency. Now oxygen masks are the first item on the checklist, not just for Learjets but for every similar plane in the sky. That wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a thumbs up for the video. If you are not subscribed, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified about our uploads. And let us know in the comments below which air disasters to uncover next. And don't forget to leave your feedbacks. We'll see you next week.